It is damn near impossible to review Beyond Two Souls in a vacuum. The game comes to us from the good folks at Quantic Dream and director David Cage, who have become known for making games that are mostly cutscenes, but don't tell especially well-reasoned stories. My dirty little secret is that I really enjoyed 2005's Indigo Prophecy and 2010's Heavy Rain, plot holes and all, because there were so few games of their kind out there. And for me, even the most rote stories become exciting when I'm seeing them for the first time in a video game. But just 3 short years later, the bar for video game narratives is dramatically higher, due in no small part to Telltale's The Walking Dead and an explosion of high-quality independent games. Unfortunately, rather than focusing on elevating the quality of their writing, the studio and David Cage have decided to double down on creating great aesthetics and motion capture for Beyond Two Souls. The game stars Jodie Holmes, played by Ellen Page, a girl who's born with an inexplicable connection to the soul of a boy named Aiden. The two are tethered between worlds, making them completely inseparable, and although Aiden himself is ethereal and invisible to the human eye, him and Jodie converse freely, which puts her in the awkward position of constantly talking to herself.
Aiden, look, I told you that... Crap.
Because of her special abilities, Jodie ends up being raised under government care by Nathan Dawkins, who's played by Willem Dafoe. Both actors do a stellar job, especially given how goofy some of the game's dialogue can be, but there's really only so much two performers can do to rectify a messy narrative. If you haven't already guessed it, this is a science fiction story, and although I appreciate that the sci-fi trimmings are revealed up front, rather than being a big switcheroo at the end, Jodie's ostensible magic powers are used primarily for gameplay purposes or crazy Deus Ex Machina stuff. Even the way people respond to her gift is baffling, with only a handful of characters having an appropriate "what the fuck is going on here?" Which is to say that Beyond Two Souls doesn't compete with high-quality children's movies when it comes to its primary narrative device. What's more is that the narrative skips around through the timeline of her life in a non-linear fashion without much, if any, narrative reason to do so. And yet the game still manages to shoehorn in a Rocky-style montage to explain her skills in ass-kickery. Beyond Two Souls never picks a theme and zeroes in on it. It tries really hard to be a game about loss, but between jumping out of trains and waging war overseas, none of Jodie's relationships develop to a place where her life would be meaningfully impacted by losing one of them. As it is, her romantic relationships are so hollow that I just wound up going for the hottest guy I could find. It's also just so overwrought with the most weighty scenarios imaginable, everything from rape and bullying to poverty and war. At some point, you're just cheapening the gravity of these situations by laying them down one after another.
Burn them. Ah! Get her!
And hey, guess what? The best scenario in the game is about ghosts in a desert. Most of the scenes in the game will have specific or unique gameplay moments, but the gist of it is that you'll walk around as Jodie, guiding her direction in conversation, and then switching to Aiden to find objects he'll be able to interact with. It's really nice to be able to explore the world as Aiden, especially to see all the hard work that went into making it, but unfortunately there isn't much in the way of environmental character development, so it ends up just being a way to break up the QuickTime events. Which, by the way, there are a lot of. The story of a girl and her ghost is a much easier pill to swallow than some of the absurdities from Quantic Dream's previous efforts, and it's a much more cohesive experience overall, but in 2013 it's just way too hard to ignore how asinine the game's writing is, even if the performances are stellar. It's a fun game to play if you're just looking to kick back and engage with the Hollywood movie, but be warned there's very little meat on these bones, and the game's most redeeming qualities come from its production, not its story. What the fuck is going on here?